Question number 5, Jami-Lee Ross. Order.
Mr Speaker, my question is to the Minister for Building and Housing and asks, what specific new requirements for councils are proposed in the National Policy Statement on Urban Development Capacity, and how will these support the government's long-term work on improving housing supply and affordability?
Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
Councils will be required to ensure sufficient development capacity is provided in their plans to meet projected growth. They'll have to monitor and report for the first time on issues of housing supply and affordability. They'll have to take into account the difference between theoretical capacity and that which is commercially feasible, as well as providing a 20% oversupply to ensure that there is genuine competition. These requirements on land supply are an important part of the government's work on housing affordability, because it is actually the price of the section, now averaging $450,000 in Auckland, that is at the core of New Zealand's housing affordability problems.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Jami-Lee Ross.
What background work has gone into the development of this National Policy Statement on Urban Development Capacity?
Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
Mr Speaker, I have to acknowledge the work of the Productivity Commission that produced last September a 380-page report that identifies this key area in which our planning system is failing. I'd also draw attention to the research work on other jurisdictions in which it was found that between Australia and the UK, our RMA systems for ensuring adequate development capacity were weaker than any of those other jurisdictions, and also very poor in terms of the information and analytical requirements, and that is why they are included in the national policy.
Supplementary question.
A supplementary question, Matt Ducey.
What examples are there to show that increasing development capacity directly impacts on housing prices and affordability?
Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
It's interesting to note yesterday that the only urban area in New Zealand that had house price inflation under 10% was Christchurch, where it was only 3.3%. In that same city, rents in the last year have dropped by 5%. Now, when we look at the intervention that Mr Brownlee took 5 years ago to open up 25 years of supply of land for housing, directly shows the link between land supply and housing affordability. And members opposite say it's ridiculous. At the time, they said there was a housing crisis in Christchurch. We've fixed it. We're going to fix it in Auckland with the same successful methods.
Order. Question